December 14th, you know exactly what that means. That means it's time to get into our word of the day, which comes from Matthew chapter 14. And it says, at that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the report of Jesus and said to his servants, "This is John the Baptist. He is risen from the dead, and therefore these powers are at work in him." Chapter 14 starts off really deep, where you have King Herod, who assumes that John the Baptist is Jesus reincarnated. He assumes that since Jesus died, that John the Baptist was Jesus reincarnated. This is why he says his powers are at work in him. Y'all, King Herod, his wife, and his daughter, dirty. When I'm looking at my women's study Bible, it gives some more background information about King Herod, basically saying that no one was safe, whether you was inside of their family or outside the family. King Herod was responsible for a lot of deaths in that time, even people like his own brother. It explains that King Herod actually killed his first wife. In this story, in chapter 14, you have King Herod's wife, who really wants John the Baptist dead. At a celebration for King Herod, his daughter, was dancing for them, which is pretty custom in that time. And because she danced so well, he said, "What do you want? What exactly can I give to you?" And her decision was to have John the Baptist on a platter. Wild. And guess who else was excited that she requested this specific request? None other than her own mother. The Women's Study Bible leaves a really good description about the relationship between the mother and the daughter and how obsessions can actually hurt other people around you. It says, obsessions of hate not only take over a person's life, but actually infect others as well. By example, influence and manipulation. In chapter 14, John the Baptist was no longer, in a very tragic way. When Jesus learns of this in verse 13, he heard it and he left and he went to be alone. We see a lot of times where Jesus values self-care, how he takes a moment and takes it to himself to process things. I think we can all take note of that, because I know for myself as a mother, it's really hard for me to find those pockets of self-care, but Jesus does it, which also shows us the significance of taking care of yourself. Then in the same paragraph, people see Jesus needing him and still follow him. And Jesus shows compassion. What a good example for us. Because even though you're overwhelmed, even though you're going through a lot, just like Jesus, we have to muster up the courage and the faith to show compassion. He left us a really good example with that. And this is one of the most well-known miracles, at least in my experience, that I've heard my entire life, where Jesus fed the multitudes. And this was also very interesting because the multitudes are following Jesus. His disciples see this, and his disciples are ready to send them away. And Jesus explains they don't need to go away. You need to feed them. This is the Bible story where they have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and they feed the multitudes. 5,000 men, not including women and children. And at this time, it was custom to only count the men, so no telling how many were included when we're talking about women and children as well. And I love this example, and I hear it the same every single time. The disciples gather everything they have, and they come to Jesus, and they say, "We only have 5 loaves and 2 fish." And Jesus says, "Bring them here to me." And by bringing their small to Jesus, it is multiplied. They have so much to where they feed everybody and everyone is full. And they even have leftovers. 12 baskets of leftovers. This story is such a good reminder for me personally, because I think I have a little strength, think I have a little bit of resources. But when Jesus says, "I take that little and bring it to me, let me handle it." You think your little may not be a lot, but you give that to God and just watch it multiply. As we get deeper into chapter 14, we see another amazing miracle that we've heard our entire life, where Jesus walks on water and calls Peter out into the water with him. This is such a great example of faith, what it looks like to have faith, and also what it looks like to have doubt. So after the multitudes were fed, and we are looking at verse 22, we have Jesus who calls his disciples to get on a boat on the other side of the water. And then only after the multitude is fed, Jesus sends them away. Next, Jesus values alone time again, and he goes on a mountain and he prays. He spends time with God. The Bible says when the evening came, he was there by himself. He went up to a mountain and was there by himself by the evening. That lets you know how much time he spent with God. And it reminds me, how much time am I spending with my Father? Is it enough? When Jesus was finished praying, he noticed that the disciples were in the middle of the sea on the boat. And this is when Jesus walks on water to the disciples on the boat. They immediately get nervous. They think it's a ghost. And Jesus says to them something so profound for us to remember. "Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid." And then Peter answers him, "If it's really you, let me come to you." Peter has the faith to ask. And when Peter steps out of the boat, he gets afraid and starts sinking. I commend Peter, because everyone else is on the boat, and Peter had the faith to even ask, "Can I come closer? Can I lean in? Can I take the step?" Even in his faith, he still had a little doubt. Jesus had to tell him, "Oh, you of little faith." Has there been a season in your life where God called you to step out on faith, and even in your faith walk, you felt a little doubt? Does that remind you anything at all of Peter? If God called you to take the step in faith, let you know right now that he's going to cover you through every single step of the process, as long as you keep your eyes on him and keep leaning in on him. At the end of chapter 14, we have the multitudes coming back to Jesus and being healed just by touching his clothes. Now that's faith. What does your faith look like? Chapter 14 was so good, so reassuring, so much about faith and doubt, confirmation, and what it really looks like to give God your little. What did you get from chapter 14? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you next time. Bye.